These bills be now read a second time, and I call the honourable member for Herbert.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Addressing the Social Services and Other Legislation Amendments Bill of 2014, I think what I've got to do is put it in context of why we're actually in this conversation and why we're moving in these circles. In 2013, we went to the election with the four-pillar promise. We said we would axe the bad taxes, the carbon and mining taxes. We would stop the boats. We'd build the roads and the infrastructure of the 21st century, and we would fix the budget mess. Now, the carbon tax and the mining tax are gone. Tick. The boats, we've had one successful boat this year. One successful boat this year. We have announced $150 billion worth of roads and over $800 billion worth of approvals through the Environment Department to get this economy moving. But, Deputy Speaker, the fourth one is to fix the budget mess, and that is taking a long time, and that will take a long time. I want to expand on this first, but I first of all take up the point from the member for Jagajaga and state emphatically, this is a lot of money. These savings we are trying to put through with these bills is a lot of money. By my calculations, over the forward estimates, about $8.7 billion. That on its own is a tremendous amount of money. But when you consider that Social Security per year at the moment, $146 billion. So in the next 4 years, we'll be spending nearly $600 billion in Social Security payments. So to put it in context of what we're actually talking about here, $8 billion versus $600 billion, over $500 billion. It's about 1.5% we're trying to get through here, about 1.5%. We have an economy growing at around 4%, but our Social Security and health costs are rising at over 9%, at 9% and over. We have real issues in here. And I know that the thing that gets to me the most really is that rather than discuss the numbers, the opposition always instead wanted to play grammar and argue the words. Was it a budget emergency? And they say it wasn't an emergency. Well, I say, is it an emergency as you're going over the cliff, or is it an emergency as you're getting close to the cliff? I have a real issue with the way we talk about numbers in this place. People in the street and people at the Herbert Hotel and the Great Northern and the Shamrock Hotel, they don't know what $1 billion is. The people in my family don't know what $1 billion is. It's almost impossible to get your head around that concept. So what business are we actually in? What business are we actually in? No one, the vast majority of people are paying things off for all your life. So the mere concept of paying off debt is hard to get across. So are we really in the debt business? Are we really in the debt collection business and the paying money back business? Because I don't think we got elected by people to pay back debt. I think we got elected by the people of Australia to fix the thing. I think that this government is here to fix stuff. And I think that's what we have to try and get across here. That something is broken. That if you have a car, and what's happened over the last 6 years, and can I tell you, these bills are not just about the last 6 years. These bills go back a lot longer than the last 6 years, because we have got structural issues in our budget and the way we spend money, which have gone back an awfully long time. I have a friend who's a stay-at-home mum. They have 5 kids under 15. Her husband works, has a car supplied by the company. He earns 120 grand. She gets nearly $1,800 a fortnight, family tax benefit Part B. That is just short of $47,000 net a year. No wonder she's a stay-at-home mum. That's a $70,000 job. And that's what we're paying her to stay at home. That sort of stuff has to end. She said to me, we're paying enough tax. I said, I don't think you're paying any. You're not paying any tax. We have to look at the way the money's going out. And I have a real issue when it comes to the way that this has been portrayed by the other side. When you're in business, if you have a business and it's struggling, when I took over a business in Townsville, it was losing $150,000 a year. I was given the imprimatur to do whatever I had to do to get that business turned around. Now, you don't just sit there and say it's all too hard and just expect to keep on getting paid. What you have to do when things are tight is you have to look around and you have to fight and scratch and punch and kick and get money in the door, because that's what you've got to do. And that's what we've got to do to try and get this budget back into order. We have to fix the thing. What Labor did, what the member for Lilly and the member for Rank and his offsider did was that they took the family car. They had it for 6 years, they've given it back to us, and it's dinged up, it's blown a head gasket, it's got baldy tyres, it's got dings all over it, it's got a busted windscreen. Now, we can keep on driving that thing, we can keep on driving it until it stops completely. We can just keep on putting a little bit of petrol in all the time until it stops completely. Or we can fix it. You can put new tyres on it, you can restructure the way you do it, and you can get the windscreen fixed, and then you still have a good motor car. It's the same with the economy, it's the same with these bills here. We have a very generous social security system. Like I said, over $600 billion, nearly $600 billion over the next 4 years is going out in social security. And we're asking for $8 billion in savings to go through, 1.5%. I don't think that's too bad. So I think we are in the fixing business, because what governments, and I'm not just talking about the last 6 years, I'm talking about previous governments before, we have known that we have an ageing population for a long time. This government is the first one to really address it. This government's the first one to even really talk about it. We do generation papers and all that sort of stuff, but we don't do anything about it. This government has said, geez, you know, even the opposition leader in his budget and reply speech said when he was at school there were 7.5 tax-paying workers per person over 65. Today there are 5. By 2050, today there are 5, and there are more people in the workforce today than at any other time in Australia's history. By 2050 there will be 2.5 tax-paying workers per person over 65. That's a lot of weight to carry. And the hullabaloo about raising it to 70 and from there 67 was just ridiculous. When the pension came in 1908, 1909, it was at age 65, and it was fully means tested. For every 10 quid you had over 100 quid in assets and cash, including your home, you lost £1 off your pension. You lost £1 off your pension for the year. So all the way through, and that was in 1908, 1909. The average life expectancy for age 65, the average life expectancy of the Australian male in 1908, 1909 was 62. So you've been dead for 3 years before you've even got the pension. If we applied that today, you would not get the age pension until you are 84 years old. 84 years old. So that's the challenge we've got. Instead of having a very small number of population actually get to pension age, to where they are completely and utterly unable to work, we have people on average living nearly 19 years over the age of 65. That is a massive challenge for us here, and if we don't address it now, if we just keep on going the way we are, it's never going to get back. We're never going to catch up, and it's never going to be sustainable. Now, the other one I hate is that did we take this to an election? Now, I submit that by saying that we had to fix the budget, that we had real issues in the budget, that should have said, we don't do this, we're not taking out a System 8, we're not taking out a System 8 in the lotto each week to pay down the budget debt. We are trying to fix the thing. And it's both sides. You have to look at your spending and you have to look at the way you bring in. But I would submit to the Labor Party, to the great Hawke and Keating thing. Was the floating of the dollar taken to an election? No, it was not. Was HEX taken to an election? No, it was not. The member for Jagga, they're just with the pious righteousness and sanctimony, standing there talking about single mums. She was the one that changed. The member for Jagga was the one that stuck it to the single mums in the last Parliament. Did she take it to an election? Did she take it to an election? No, she didn't. Was it a structural reform? Was it a structural reform for betterment of people? No, it wasn't. It was a grab to get back to surplus, and that's what it was. And my message to those opposite here, and I haven't even spoken about the carbon tax, and I think we've done that to death. No, about they didn't take it to an election. We haven't finished a long time about it, but they didn't take it to an election. They didn't take an election. They can tell. They give us a gobful about They give us a gobful about not taking things to an election, but explicitly ruling it out. But my warning, especially to those guys who weren't here in the last parliament. In the last parliament, as part of the deal-making that went on, the member for Denison was able to get the then Prime Minister Gillard to agree to savage cuts and pokies and all this sort of stuff that went around it. Now, the member for Shortland and the then member for Robertson and all those people were taken to their local RSLs and sports clubs and all that sort of stuff, and they were belted. They were belted. But the then member for Robertson, she stood up there and she stuck to the family line, she stuck to the line, and she did the right thing, and she took a punishment well. And I was talking to her one night, and I said, look, the hard part about that is, A, it's state legislation, B, you didn't take it to an election, didn't do it. Oh, but it's so bad. It's so bad, these people are killing themselves. And then when the then member for Fisher became the Speaker, and they didn't need Wilkie anymore, out it went! Overnight, no one was crossing the floor. It was no longer the greatest moral challenge of all time. They just do it. So when you go there, the changes to the pension, to the age pension, will not come in until after the next election. So that gives the Labor Party enough time to come up with what they're going to do at the next election. That comes with enough time to sit there and say what they are going to do and how they are going to pay for it. Because that's the important thing here. Because we got brought in because they couldn't handle a chequebook. They couldn't handle a chequebook. And that's the reason we're on this side and they're on that side. It isn't anything to do with social conscience, it isn't anything to do with the budget or anything like that. It's because they can't handle the money. We have to handle the money. We have to handle the money, and it's as simple as that. If we don't get this thing into order, if we don't ask people to do more for what they're getting, we will never get this thing back in line. We will never get the thing back in order, and we will turn out to be that archetype of Greece and Ireland, all those places there, because we're not getting into control. I have 3 children, Deputy Speaker. A 21-year-old, my daughter's going to turn 20 at the end of this week, and I have a 12-year-old. You know, when I'm old and grey and out of this place, I want to be able to say to them that I did my best, that we just didn't pass it on to them to fix it up for us, because we didn't have enough. We didn't have enough ticket to actually front the thing. Previous parliaments have not addressed the basic structural issues around our budget. To the Treasurer and the Minister for Finance's credit, and to the Prime Minister, we have actually looked at this thing and said, geez, if we don't pull this thing into order, if we don't pull it in line, we're in all sorts of strife. So we are asking for an awful lot of money out of these bills. Like I said, it's $8.7 billion, and that's going to hurt some people. But what's the option? Tell me what the option is and how you're going to pay for it. Tell me how we get these things done, because at the end of the day, we are still spending $146 billion a year this year in Social Security payments. Social Security payments is 35% of the budget. It cannot keep on going the way it is. So I say to those members opposite, get on board, let's be serious about this, let's fix this thing, because that's the business we're in. We're fixing it so that the next people who get this vehicle can actually do something. Because every cent you pay back in debt is money you can't spend on stuff you want to do. I thank the House.
I thank the honourable member.